Hi, it's Josh from BrightTALK. I'm here at Infosecurity Europe with Steve Durbin, Managing Director for ISF. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Nice to see you again, Josh.
Nice to see you too. Let's start with the Brexit debate, which is on everybody's mind at the moment.
Yeah.
What do you think the influence will be if we do have believe vote on UK cybersecurity?
It's a good question. I think that a lot of people are talking about it. Bottom line is we really don't know. Nobody has ever really left the EU before, so the implications of that on business are really something that we'll just need to discover. I think if we look at it today, though, things like the incoming EU GDPR, for instance, won't change anything at all. If we're holding European data, and we will continue to do so in the UK, then clearly we're going to have to fall in line with what it is that the regulation is looking for. So I think that from a forward planning perspective, short term anyway from a cyber standpoint, pretty much maintaining the status quo irrespective of what happens.
Sure, okay, and let's move to finance as well, which is another key area often of concern. And we've seen a few big breaches recently, Bank of Bangladesh notably. What do you think the banks could be doing to better protect themselves?
Bank of Bangladesh was a very interesting one. I think not just because of the scale, but really because the way that the hackers got in and what they were able to do. I think banks in general have a pretty well established way of maintaining security because they've been under attack now for years. It's where the money is, right? So that's where people tend to go. I think what's been disappointing and perhaps surprising to a lot of industry observers about Bank of Bangladesh is that some of the basic cyber hygiene that we take for granted perhaps wasn't in place. I'm thinking about things like firewalls, software being up to date, the quality of the way in which they transacted with SWIFT in particular. We've come to expect, I think, that those things, particularly from our banks, are just given. But I think it just does point to the fact that in the cyber world, we can't take anything for granted. And we need to make sure that the basic hygiene's in place.
Do you think it's the same kind of threat actors who are targeting the financial institutions? Is there a certain character that's going for the big banks?
Well, clearly cyber criminals are very, very good at collaborating, sharing information. They talk a lot. They know where to go to get the people who really have the right insights to be able to carry out these kinds of attacks. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if there was a degree of sharing of information and collaboration behind some of these things.
Well, from finance, let's move to the Internet of Things, which is a key topic at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think people can be doing to ensure that their kind of ecosystem in the house with their connected devices is kind of up to date in terms of security standards?
Big issue here is really how aware are you of the devices that you have and the information that you're putting down onto them, or indeed that they're taking from you. Good example would be pretty much everybody now has a router in their home. What's the password on that? Have you changed it from when it was installed? A lot of people may not know that they need to do that, or that they can do that, or indeed how to do that. So I think that again we're back to that whole issue of let's look at what it is that I've got in my house, let's look at what I'm using it for, and if you're doing a lot of mobile banking, for instance, then change that router password. Make sure that you're keeping those sorts of things up to date and keep abreast of really what's going on in terms of cyber.
Sure, and is that advice applicable at the national level? So if you're looking towards critical infrastructure, for instance, do the same rules apply?
I think within business, the major concern about the Internet of Things is how do you actually manage security across all of those devices? And the answer is what you have to do is return to the data. You really have to be focusing on mission critical information, making sure that you're protecting that, whether you're at home, and so in the home it will be my banking details or perhaps family photos. In business, in critical infrastructure, it's going to be the core information that actually is supporting the way in which your business operates. You have to secure that, irrespective of what devices might be accessing it. So you start with the data, you identify the mission critical information, you put in place the protection around that, and then you can stop worrying so much about how the different devices are working with it.
That's interesting stuff, Steve. Thank you for joining us.
No, thanks very much, Josh.
We're at Infosecurity Europe all week, so head to BrightTALK.com for more ISF content.